In financial year 2016-2017, government launched a 5 billion shillings agriculture insurance premium grant to boost harvests. According to the scheme, a farmer is required to pay 5.5% of the value of crops he wants to insure, especially for the disaster-prone areas. According to government, the prone areas include Isinjiro, Kasese, parts of Mount Elgon, Teso, Karamoja, and West Nile, where the farmer has to pay 10% of the value of crops to be insured. The government will pay 80% of the basic premium for the farmers in these areas. Small scale is wondered as a farmer who grows crops on less than 5 acres of land. In 2009, government through Bank of Uganda in partnership with commercial banks introduced the Agriculture Credit Facility, SCF. The project supports farmers with seed funding for agricultural machinery, post-harvest handling equipment, storage, and agro-processing equipment. There are also other loan schemes that government has come up with, but the farmers who are involved in farming remain poor. One of the major challenges, according to experts, is lack of information.
Because ask me where can I get access to that money from? Personally, I don't know. Now, if me who is at this level doesn't know where to get this money from, how do you expect those farmers in the rural area to know how to access the money? In terms of value addition, what is the government doing in terms of production? I remember one time they was promoting maize production, and indeed maize was produced. But the price went down. There was no effort from government to assist these people sell their produce. So you are producing, but you are not buying or marketing it. What do you expect?
Musisi Edmond Mulenga has been a farmer for the last 30 years in Mulika village in Wachiso district. He grows vegetables and other crops, but he says he has nothing much to show in 30 years.
I have nothing to show for the last 30 years I have been farming. One may say he bought land, a car or motorcycle, but I have none of those. This is because I lack capital.
There's that psychological orientation that is still within our people. It is affecting our people that they think they are going to remain. First we are poor, that's what they say. First we are poor. That psychological orientation has to be driven out of our people, so that you can manage, you can succeed, even with the little you begin with. And of course, another thing is lack of saving. We don't have a savings culture among our people. People simply produce to consume, produce to consume. There's no savings culture. If you don't save, there's no you can progress.
He has been relying on bank loans to help him in hiring labor and buying farm inputs.
Banks don't help you much because they give you 2 months to start paying their interest and the principal. Sometimes you're forced to sell the produce at a throwaway price to clear debts.
He is not aware of any agricultural insurance schemes funded by government.
I've never enrolled for any insurance scheme. Many of times we lose everything during dry spells. I only know about funeral insurance.
Agricultural insurance, it can only work when people also change the methods of agriculture, doing proper. As long as we are still using the traditional ways of agriculture, it cannot work. You can't. It will not be sustainable. It will not be sustainable. As long as people are still on rain-fed, it will not be sustainable.
At his home, he tried fish farming by building a pond near his home, but he could not complete it due to lack of funds.
I was left with a lot to do. I needed a borehole for continuous water supply to the pond.
Musisi told NTV that he has only benefited from a Myoga program, which grapples with a problem of inadequate share capital.
People borrowed most of the money. Every time you ask for a loan, they tell you to wait for other members to pay.
Despite some families having ample land, many leave it unutilized due to lack of funds or resources to till and plant crops, which in most cases also requires application of pesticides. According to Dr. Bakal Moki, the Commissioner Policy Development and Capacity Building at Cabinet Secretariat in the Office of the President, accessibility of the loans is not a problem, but rather how the loans are utilized.
You access, you get a tractor. You have seen people getting tractors, but if you get a tractor and you are still using grain-fed, there's a problem. So the access is there, but the challenge is, do you match it with the modern technology? And that's where the problem is. We are not using the right. Some of these technologies that we have adopted, they are even not appropriate. They are even creating more damage. You have heard the situation where people are using pesticides, spraying weeds, weed mass and so on. That one is more dangerous.
Dr. Moki argues that there is a lacuna of technical knowledge about farming.
There should be appreciation of technicalities. There should be appreciation of technicalities. But in Africa, that seems to be dwindling out. You go to people and say, even now if you are talking about irrigation, there are people who have studied on irrigation. But how many are utilizing them? So it's not a matter of getting machines. It's not a matter of getting machines. There's some science that you need to use, and there are people who have that science.
So how will peasants who only produce what they consume access such technical services?
Let's encourage these peasants to form cooperatives, working together, so that if you have 1 acre, another one has 1 acre, then you form that cooperative, and then you can afford the services of one crop scientist who can come around and you share the cost. Then it can work. But as an individual, of course, they cannot. They cannot based on the land fragmentation we have.
Dr. John Mutenyo Emakere University School of Economics Don argues that extension services are needed in the community.
But I have some garden in Kayunga district, but there's no extension services. For all this number of decades, I've never been visited by an extension worker. So this is the easiest channel through which you can transfer information.
Edmond Musisi has been religiously farming for the time he has lived in this very village. He's 59 years old. And every time he has to do farming, especially growing the various crops, he has to attain a loan facility from a microfinance bank within this very village. And he pays heavy interest at the end of every harvest. And sometimes he doesn't remain with much after paying off even the principal. But the government has several facilities that are supposed to be extending such loans or simple loans to farmers like Musisi, who represents many in this village. But the irony is they are not aware of such kind of programs or even the offers that government normally has for them. So for how long will this continue? Over to the responsible authorities. Sudhir Byaruhanga, NTV, Bulika Village in Wachiso.